Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Watchers Thrive cast. This is your girlie Ann. I am super excited for this week's conversation because we're going to talk about something that if you haven't experienced this, kudos to you, but I know a large majority of especially us women have dealt with cheating, have dealt with betrayal, have dealt with affairs, and really overcoming the trauma that comes from experiencing that. And today I have a guest who is literally an expert in this field. Besides her lived experience, this is what she does for a living. So I'm super, super excited to introduce you guys. I'm going to let her introduce her to the audience. But Brianna, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the show.
Yes, hello. I am super excited too for this conversation. And so, my name is Briaina Latrice. I am an affair recovery coach. And I love to say that I love to walk alongside women to help them navigate their decision of whether they choose to leave or stay after infidelity. There's so much judgment on both, but I believe that both decisions are hard. And I am here to help women navigate their heart. That is what I love to do. Yeah.
I definitely have a very vocal opinion on the side that I stand on when it comes to should you stay or should you go with my own lived experience. But it's not about me today. It's about you.
What side is that though?
I am someone who cannot get past it. Like I've been the person who was betrayed and I've also been the one who did cheat. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an angel and I was never the one to do that to someone. But just knowing who I am and what I've been through, my trust issues are like, nah, once you disrespect me once, cutting ties on to the next. And I know a lot of people have that thought as well, but they're also on the other side. And that's what I want to get out of you, both sides in your expertise. But before we get into the gems that you're going to drop, I definitely want to learn more about you and your own personal story on the woman that you were before you decided to really become a coach and now help people with your own lived experience. So take us on that journey.
Ooh, yes. Okay. I'll tell bits and pieces of my story. And then if you want to pull more out, then feel free to. But 2015 was the first time that I discovered that my husband at the time, now ex-husband, but my husband at the time was cheating on me. And I had to make myself stop on the very first time of discovery after woman 6. Like I was legit sick to my stomach. And I knew that if I would have kept looking, I would have found more women. But like I had to make myself stop after woman 6. And then like that after clockwork every 6 months for the next 5 years up until 2020. Because 2020 is when we really found ourselves, right? It's like everybody kind of got this light. It was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? And so it was in 2020, but every 6 months, like clockwork, from 2015 to 2020, I will find out about another woman. And so much so that in 2018, we were still married now. 2018, my husband's girlfriend of 2 years approached me at the gym and told me that she had caught him with another female. So the other woman had caught him with another woman. So
it's just a cycle that's repeating.
It's just a cycle. That was that, right? And so that's really why I came up with the phrase, whether you choose to leave or stay, both will be hard, because I did both. I ended up leaving, but I also tried to stay for 5 years. Even within those 5 years, when I was asking my husband at the time, hey man, why can't you just stop cheating? And his response to me was, well, I can't stop cold turkey. And I still stayed. So it's like understanding that there is a psychological turmoil that is going on in women's heads when they are experiencing infidelity. I think we make it such this light thing of like, oh, the best way to find somebody else is to get over anybody. But no, mentally, we are mentally and psychologically going through things. And you have to understand what this person is going through that makes them stay. And so I stayed for those 5 years, but within those 5 years, experienced severe depression. My hair fell out. I was balding in the middle of my head. Like you could literally see my scalp. I wasn't sleeping. I got down to a size 0. And so those things, once I actually, did my healing process through 2020, I realized like, wow, okay, this is something that's deeper than just saying, man, my partner cheated on me. And so I came out about my story. And girl, at this time that I shared my story on IG, I only had 75 followers. In 30 minutes, it had already had 1,500 views. And women were in my inbox asking me about different situations. But if you go to their pages, it looked like their marriages were flourishing and happy. And so that's kind of how life after infidelity evolved. I was like, man, this is something that's bigger than myself, and women are out here hurting. And because I'm not ashamed to share my story, I'm going to help some people.
Yes, yes, yes. I commend you so much for that. And really, that was what started with me sharing my own story of being in an abusive relationship. Again, during the pandemic, I thought I found the one till he wasn't the one and he almost killed me. Long story short, if y'all want to check it out, go listen to the podcast. I have a whole episode about it. We'll link it in the show notes. But this is something that is very traumatic. I consider it abuse. Cheating is absolutely a form of emotional abuse. And it's something that a lot of us struggle with. And a lot of us that we struggle with that shame and that embarrassment. And we internalize what the person has chosen to do and think that we are the problem. Now, I'm speaking for myself because I have experienced multiple times of cheating, especially in that last relationship that was physically abusive, emotionally, verbally, a lot of abuse that was going on. But one of the main things that I dealt with a lot in that last relationship was he cheated on me from the start, from the very beginning, from day one. And I didn't find out until that, I want to say like the last 2 months of the relationship. That's when I really found out everything that was going on. And I have the mindset of like, if you go looking for something, you're gonna find it,
You're going to find.
right? You're gonna find what you're looking for. And I absolutely found what I was looking for. And even though it's something that I experienced in the past, like it still hurt just as bad. And I think that's really the struggle that a lot of women have is that like it's just reopening that wound that we have over and over, even if it's a different partner, it's just coming up again. And then we're internalizing it and blaming ourselves. So, what are your thoughts around all of that?
Yeah, and it's so funny because you were like, I'm speaking for myself. I'm like, girl, you can speak for like 99% of women because you know,
Yeah.
most people, but most women that come to my chair, that's the thing, right? It's like you said, they're internalizing it. And so a lot of the times you'll find, because you'll hear people say, man, I asked him like, well, was she, because you'll get this too, right? A lot of the times the other woman doesn't necessarily look better than you. And so you be like, you cheated on me with her? And yeah, you know what I'm saying? But again,
Yeah.
that's why that should be right there a key indicator that you don't have to internalize it because it has absolutely nothing to do with you. And the worst thing that you can do is ask questions as if they have something to do with you, right? So you may say something like, well, was she better in bed than me? It doesn't really have anything to do with you, baby. How many times did y'all do it? What does she look like? What did y'all talk about? Again, what you're doing, like you said, is what you're doing with those questions are you're asking questions that are going to deepen the wound that you're already experiencing. And so I actually have, it's a $7 ebook because I feel like it's super important, but it's a $7 ebook that's called Essential Questions to Ask Your Partner After They've Cheated. And what it does is it actually helps you to get into the mindset of why they cheated. And it also helps you understand if this is a person's character and they're going to continue to do it, or if this was just something that they were dealing with, they're making a mistake and they're a good candidate to rebuild trust with. But when you ask the right questions, and like to term them investigative questions, when you ask the right questions, you'll actually see that your partner's infidelity had nothing to do with you because you'll ask them things like, well, what was the longing that made you go off and get something from someone else, right? What did this mean to you? Are you happy that this is over with? Because a lot of the times the partner isn't happy that it's over with. They may be relieved that they don't have to hide around anymore, but they're not. And so, yeah, a lot of the times we just have to know the right questions to ask to our partner. And when you ask those right questions, you will realize that none of that had anything to do with you. A little bit of my story, I internalized it a lot, which is why I went through all of the mental issues that I went through. But once I actually got down to doing the work, I realized that my ex had mother father issues and I had father issues, right? And so my deep core issue was rejection. And so because I wasn't raised with my father, then here was the next man that I had. And it was like, man, I've got to work on maintaining this relationship because I can't stand for another man that I love that's supposed to be here for me to leave me. And so I worked harder in this relationship because of fear of rejection. And so a lot of times the women that I work with, that's what we do. We get down to the core wound of why is it? Because really the question should be, why did you allow this to happen? Why did you stay? Why did you go back? Why didn't you say anything when you saw the very first red flag? And so once we get down to the core of that, you will realize that everybody has some type of core wound that shows up in that relationship.
Yes, if you guys are listening, you can't see me, but I am shaking my head like, girl, I feel so seen. And I talk about this so much on my platform that a lot of the things that we experience in our childhood, it absolutely shapes us into the people that we become in adulthood. And a lot of us have those mommy wounds, those daddy wounds, those past relationship wounds. I absolutely have a rejection wound and an abandonment wound when it comes to my past relationships. The really significant ones that I've had in my life, it was always with that person leaving me. And I know that that was really shaped the lack of trust that I have when it comes to meeting someone new, because I have that in the back of my head. What if they're just going to leave me again? What if I'm going to go down that route again? So I absolutely get it. I understand, y'all. This is a lot of deep work that whenever you get to the point that you're ready to do that work, know that you don't have to do that alone. I love that ebook that you have. We're going to link that in the show notes for you guys to check out as well. But yeah, man, this is something like a lot of us experience. And you mentioned the red flags. And one thing that popped in my head was I want you to talk a little bit about like the beginning part of having that feeling, those spidey senses, that female intuition, that little annoying voice in the back of your head that won't shut the fuck up. That you feel like something is off and then you decide to go down that path. What was that like for you? And then part two to that question, some advice on what you would tell someone who has those feelings of something might be going on, but they're kind of scared of going down that route.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I would say is with your intuition, ladies, trust it. Trust that thing. Well,
Say it again for the people in the back. I don't think they heard you.
baby, I need you to trust that intuition 100%, right?
Yep.
Because here's the thing. Trust. And a lot of the times people are always coming to me and they're like, well, how do I know if I can trust him again? You don't. But here's the key. You'll never know if you can trust him again until you learn how to trust yourself again. And so here's the thing. What we don't understand is that every time that spidey sense or that intuition goes off and we ignore it, what we're telling ourselves internally is that, hey, I don't trust you. So now what we're doing is we're going down this space of not even knowing how to trust ourselves because we don't trust our words. So then that's why when we do go to our partner and we ask them X, Y, and Z and they gaslight us, right? It's easier for us to just kind of take that because now we've built in our space, in ourselves, within our own minds, hey, I can't even trust my own self because I don't keep promises to myself. Or on the other side to that is that you tell your partner, hey, I'm going to take you back. But if you do X, Y, Z again, I'm gone. And then guess what? They do X, Y, Z again. And what happens? You stay. So again, you're building this belief within yourself. Hey, I am a person who doesn't stick to my word. So I can't trust myself. So therefore, when an opportunity presents itself for me to trust anybody else, I don't even know how to trust them or know if I should because trust within me is broken. So the first thing that we have to do is, honor your intuition 100%. And I think that, again, once you realize what your core wounds are, you'll learn what that's connected to as to the reason why you don't want to bring it up. Because again, mine was rejection and I didn't want my partner to be mad at me for the potential of rejecting me, right? And also looking at how does your partner respond when there is opportunities for conflict, because conflict is essential and it's needed in relationships. But if you are with a toxic partner, you have to monitor how he responds to conflict. Like, I've experienced this myself, and I've had clients. I had one client where she brought up a conflict with her partner, right? And he stopped talking to her for like 2 or 3 weeks. Now they married now in the same house and everything. In those 2 or 3 weeks, his mother died, or his grandmother died. I believe it was his grandmother died. And he didn't tell her. And she found out from one of his family members, and she was broken because she was like, as a wife, I want to be here to support you, right? And so you have to look at that too. Are you afraid to bring up conflict to your partner because he takes away something from you? Again, like you said, that's a form of emotional abuse. And I made a post about that before. We're so big on physical abuse, but we don't even understand. And there's actually a study out there that says that emotional abuse is actually more dangerous than physical abuse because we stay longer, and the adverse effects that it causes up on us physically and emotionally have a deeper impact than what a physical abuse would. And so it's harder for us to be aware that we're actually in some form of abuse. So I would say, look at the reasons why you're afraid not to bring up those issues, whether it's a core wound within yourself, or if it's something that your partner has exhibited in the past and you're afraid of that same response. For me, it was actually both. He would take away the emotional component of our relationship when I would bring up conflict. And then I was also afraid of him being angry at me. And so after you do that, after you kind of figure out that part, the next part, honestly, is that you have to learn how to rebuild trust within yourself. Because honestly, you're never going to know what it's like to actually be able to trust someone until you have that trust within yourself. And so starting small, honoring your word. And if you don't honor your word that one time, giving yourself grace throughout that time. But it really starts with you. Everything starts with you. I always laugh because I'm like, women come to me and they think I finna just go off on the man and we finna shove the bed. But then once they get in, they like, oh, wait, this really got everything to do with me. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
ma'am, it does.
Yep. Yep, I say that all the time too on my platform. Everything starts and ends with you. And the relationship that you have with you, I truly believe it sets the tone for every other relationship that comes into your life. There's so many things that I could relate to what you talked about. When I think about my own situation, especially the last one, there was a lot of that stonewalling. He would completely shut down. Anytime I tried to go a little bit deeper, it was shutting down completely and then also physically abusing me. That's when he would really just pop off and put his hands on me when I, in his sense, disrespected his privacy. I crossed his boundary by finding the things that he was doing, and then that my consequence would be for him to put his hands on me. So that completely had me walking on eggshells in that relationship until I finally got to the point that I said, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. And then the whole explosion happened of how that relationship ended with him almost killing me. But that was really my starting point in being able to rebuild my life. But so many of us go through this. And I appreciate you talking about the emotional aspect as well, because emotional abuse and cheating, that is something that people don't see. When it comes to the physical wounds, the scars, the broken ribs, all of that, like you see that and that eventually fades away into nothing. But the emotional aspect, that it's like mental warfare that's going on in here that no one can see. And a lot of the times, these people who are narcissistic, who are very manipulative, who treat you like shit, they portray themselves to be someone to everyone else like they're
Oh,
the
yeah.
best. But then to you behind closed doors, they're a fucking monster. And that messes with you too. Yeah.
Okay, funny story, and it's nothing. But anyways, I don't really share it often, but you just brought it up. So the very first time that I found out my ex cheated, right? Of course, he tears, just crying and all that stuff. But the funniest thing, because I had called his mom, because me and his mom were like super cool. I had called her and told her. But do you know, when I first found out, now, Leanne, I'm broken. I'm sick to my stomach. I can't breathe. I'm crying so hard.
You
This man,
sliding down the wall. It's like a whole R&B music video. I get it, sis.
Girl, this man texted me and said, hey, don't tell my daddy. Like, that's what you worried about now? Because his daddy sees him as perfect, makes no mistakes. The model son, because, he has two other brothers, but the model son, right? The model child, the staple child. And I thought that that was funny. As I started my healing process, I was like, that is so true because he doesn't want to be seen by the people that he has fooled that he's perfect. And so, yeah, like what you're saying is so true about manipulators.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a huge component as to why people stay, why they continue to endure the abuse that I'm going to call it for what it is, and why it takes people so long to walk away from that situation. Now, I want to talk about you of finally getting to the point you were together with him after the cheating, you said for 5 years. So take us through what was it for you? I like to call it my come to Jesus moment when you finally said, like, enough, I'm done. What made you feel so empowered to finally choose you and no longer stay in this toxic cycle of infidelity and betrayal and all of that?
So again, it's 2020, right? So the world has shut down. I have been wanting to get locks for a while. I do have my locks now, just a regular
Yes,
lock of
love
person.
it.
Which that's a whole other thing because, like I said, I was running late. I couldn't. So I was like, you know what? They just gonna get these little platted up locks today
You
on the
look beautiful. You look gorgeous.
but I wanted locks. Okay. So once the world opened back up, I went to a loctician for her to do my consultation. And so again, I told you my hair was falling out. So I talked to her. I said, hey, my hair is falling out, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, yeah, I'm going to connect you to a trichologist, which is a hair doctor, a healthy hair doctor. She was like, I'm going to connect you to a trichologist so we can see why your hair is falling out and if you can actually get locks because attention, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, great. So I called the trichologist, make the appointment, right? Now, I ain't new to this because again, I've been at this for 5 years and I've been through therapy. So I already know she's going to tell me you're stressed. That's why your hair is falling out. I know that. So I get there to the appointment and she's like, hey, I'm going to put your body on this scanner and it's going to tell me everything from the Rudy to the Tootie. Those were her exact words. She was like, from the Rudy to the Tootie, it's going to tell me why your hair is falling out. So stayed on the scanner. Once the scanner goes off, she just started cussing, girl. She's a sister, so she just started cussing. She's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. So I'm looking at the computer screen and it's a silhouette of a body and there's red dots all over the body. So I'm thinking she finna tell me like I got a terminal illness and I'm finna die tomorrow. So I was scared. And so she sits back in her chair and folds her arms and she looks at me for what feels like 5 to 10 minutes, but I'm sure it was just a few seconds. And she said to me, she said, so tell me what's wrong with your broken heart? And I was like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Because no one is supposed to see me because I am great at what I do. I am great at masking that I am hurt. I am great at masking that I'm broken. I am great at masking that I am ashamed. I am great at masking that I am trying to love this man. And the harder that I love him, the worse that he treats me. Like everybody that I just tell I'm stressed to, they receive that. So for her to call me out, I was like, wait, what? And so tears just started rolling down my face. And then I tried to make myself stop crying and she just started screaming at me. She was like, no, that's your problem. Let it out right now in this office. And she said, there is nothing wrong with you. She was like, the body scanner shows that you are completely healthy. The only thing that is killing you is you have a severely broken heart. And so I told her what I was going through and she said, you have a choice. She said, you can stay in this marriage and continue to die slowly, or you can actually leave this marriage and continue to live and be a daughter to your mother, a godmother to your godchildren, a best friend to your friends. She went down the list of everyone that I was sacrificing for one person. And when I left there, I literally called one of my best friends and her husband. And then I didn't talk to nobody for the rest of the day because I had to sit with that and I had to process that. And that was it, girl. That was a Wednesday. That Friday, I went with him to his grandmother's funeral and we drove separate cars and everything. And he was, like he normally do. He was like, are you going to the repast with me? And I was like, nah, I ain't going. And I hugged him. And I remember this time I hugged him as long as I could because I knew at that moment, I was done. And that was the day I walked away and didn't turn back. And another piece to that is that I always talk about with people, leaving physically and leaving emotionally are two separate things, because I actually filed for my divorce and my divorce was finalized in 2018. But for 2 years, I kept going back because emotionally I was connected to him. So when I walked away in 2020, I had nothing to do because everything was already finalized. I was good. And that was how it happened. I was done because I wanted to live.
Snaps to that. Amen. I'm so proud of you. And shout out to that doctor who was able to really open up your eyes. Sometimes we need someone on the outside that's looking from a different angle to be able to tell us what deep down subconsciously we know, but we hold on to those what ifs. We think about the beginning of the relationship and how beautiful it was. We fall in love with the potential and we make all of these excuses as to why we can't leave. But you were able to walk away. You were able to finally take your power back. And I want you to speak to someone who's listening or watching right now, hey, on YouTube, who is in that cycle right now of that breakup to makeup. Like, I remember I was in an 8.5 year long situationship. Almost all of my 20s I spent with this really toxic partner. And we had that, I hate you, I love you, I'm cheating on you, I don't want to be with you anymore. And then I come back, and then just that toxic cycle that keeps us stuck. So for someone who's watching or listening who has experienced all the things that we've gone through and they're stuck in that cycle of wanting to leave but coming back, what is some advice that you would tell them in order to really step into their power and finally make the decision to permanently walk away?
I would say to remember that you are worthy of the love that you desire and to step out of the lack mindset and into an abundance mindset. Because a lot of us are operating in lack because of everything that we are seeing on social media and the lies that we're telling to ourselves. Well, I've been with him for so long, it's going to be hard to start over. I don't want to waste all the time that I've invested. Or I'm so much older now, no man is ever going to want me. Or I have kids now. Now I appear to be less desirable. Those things right there are what keep you stuck in a situation that you don't deserve. So you have to learn how to move into an abundance mindset and really be careful about the thoughts that you are telling yourself in silence, because the biggest indicator of how a person is living their life currently is the thoughts that they're telling themselves. One of my favorite quotes is that we create more of what we focus on. And most of the women who come to my chair, those are their thoughts. No man is ever going to want me. I'm older. I've already invested too much time in this relationship, or I'm just going to stick with what I know because I'm hearing about the horror stories in the dating field and blah, blah, blah. But guess what? If you continue to tell yourself that, that's the narrative that's going to be your life. So I would say, tell yourself that you are worthy of getting the love that you desire, and then change the thoughts and the words that you are telling yourself. And what's going to happen is that you're going to initially start having aha moments to say, you know what, I deserve more than this. I deserve more than him telling me XYZ, or not keeping his promises, or gaslighting me, or not showing up when he says he's going to show up. You'll see that. And here's the thing. One of the things that I always tell all of my clients is that we allow others to treat us one step lower than we treat ourselves. So if we're not showing up for ourselves, if we're not keeping our word to ourselves, if we're not telling ourselves every day that we're beautiful, if we're not affirming ourselves, then guess what? We're going to allow other people to come into our lives and do those same things. So it's really, what we've been talking about this whole podcast episode is how you treat yourself is going to be a replica of how others come into you and treat you. And so you have to look at that, because my job with my clients is for me to get them to love themselves and so full of themselves that when anybody else who comes into their corner, it's just an overflow. It's just a compliment of that. So basically what it says is that if a man tells me I'm beautiful, it's a compliment because I tell myself I'm beautiful every day. If a man brings me flowers, it's a compliment to what I do because I buy myself flowers when I feel like I deserve them or I want them or I desire them. So when people compliment me, it's just an overflow of what I already give myself. And so we have to learn how to fill ourselves up first. And so look at that. What is it that you deserve? What is it that you desire? Give yourself that first. And then you can look and see, hey, is this person actually giving me what I already give myself? Then it's easy to walk away.
Come on. Snaps. If you guys have been around here a while, you know, like this is literally what I talk about 24/7. So I'm not the only one who's preaching to the choir, okay?
Good, good.
Yes, absolutely. It really is about just knowing who the fuck you are. And when someone disrespects you and crosses that boundary, if you have enough of that within yourself, you're not going to tolerate it. You're going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to stick around for this. I think that's just so beautiful. And that's really the journey that I've been on since leaving that last relationship in 2021. I've been single. I've been celibate. I've been on my healing journey, on my pray love, like self-love, just loving on me, treating me good. And it's really been able to open my eyes to see that the way that I was treating myself back then was a direct reflection of the people that I allowed into my space. And now I have a completely different lens because I'm choosing to put me first. And I think that's what's so beautiful that does come with the healing journey if you do decide to do that. And I do want to talk about the other side, the side that I am not a stan of. It's of staying after the infidelity, making that choice. So I want to hear your thoughts around that and also talk a little bit about when it comes to, do you really need to forgive that person in order for it to work? What are your thoughts around staying after infidelity?
Yeah. So it's funny because forgiveness and actually moving forward, trust, forgiveness and trust, those are two different things. So a lot of the times women will say, well, I've forgiven him, but I still don't trust him. And I don't know why that's so hard, because it's not the same thing. Forgiveness is saying, hey, I'm choosing not to hold this offense against you anymore. That's what forgiveness is. Trust has to be rebuilt. So the easiest way to remember that is that forgiveness is given, and it's given from you to the offender, but then trust has to be built and restored, and that is restored from the offender to the victim. So there's this whole cyclical thing where I give you forgiveness, and in return, you have to now restore this trust. And that's kind of how this thing works. And a lot of the times people get it confused and they think that, okay, well, I've forgiven him. Why can't I trust him anymore? Because those are two different things. And so when we talk about trust, there are 5 components that I talk about when we talk about trust. And those are accountability, meaning once you bring up the offense to your betrayer, do they take accountability for their actions? A lot of the times you'll find that most of them don't. Because that was my story. He didn't even take offense to that. It was always me. Well, you were nagging me all the time, so I would go out and do that. And you didn't make it easy for me to come home. You know, all that toxic podcast stuff that we hear from you. And so, do they take accountability? That's the first component to trust. The second component to trust is understanding. Saying, hey, they've taken accountability and now they are truly trying to understand how their offense has impacted you. Okay. And so after you go from understanding and accountability, then you go into ability. Because here's the thing, this is where people get stuck at. People get stuck in this ability piece because a person can be accountable and a person can be understanding, but they get stuck in that ability piece because they want their partner to be the person that their partner just does not have the ability to be. And so you have to pay attention to, does this man have the ability to be the partner that you want? Can he give you exactly what it is that you're desiring out of an emotional relationship? And a lot of the times those men don't as well. And that's nothing bad with that. You just have to know how to be aware of that. And so then after that, it's really just about character. And the character says, again, the character really speaks to those first 3. Is he going to be accountable? Is he going to do what he says he's going to do as you guys start to learn how to rebuild and navigate trust? And then you can kind of tie in like application and track record together as well, because we have to be aware that when we talk about rebuilding trust, it's not like your partner is saying, okay, cool, I'm going to be perfect and I'm never going to make any mistakes. But looking at the track record, how frequent are the episodes that they go back on, right? Are they actually really trying to own to their word? And if they do an offense again, and not necessarily an offense to the level of infidelity, but maybe you guys have agreed that, hey, I'm gonna let you check my phone or something like something small. And then they kind of go back on that. How do y'all get back on track? What does their character say about them? And so when you look at those steps, it really helps you to determine if this person is a good candidate to rebuild trust with.
Mm. Now, the last part that you brought up, I'm over here thinking, I want to hear her thoughts around that saying that we hear, once a cheater, always a cheater. Do you believe that's actually true, or do you think people can actually change and no longer do what they did in the past when it comes to cheating?
Yeah, no, I made a post about that too. No, I agree that I don't agree with that statement, right? Just because I have people in my corner who their partner cheated on them, but now they have a flourishing marriage. But again, it goes back to that character. This person had character. He actually values monogamy and he actually loved this person, right? And he was actually accountable and he did what he needed to do to create this understanding of how that person felt. And a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not going to show them my phone and stuff like that. But guess what? When trust is broken, you have to be willing to go that extra mile to restore that trust. And I was actually working with a client who she wanted to stay and make her relationship work with her partner. And they did. And they're flourishing now to this day. And what they did was they took some of the questions that I talked about, the essential questions to ask a cheater. And those questions, there's 25 in that ebook and they are deep. So what I always encourage people to do is to maybe ask about 3 or 4, because that's really about all you can handle. And with 3 or 4, you're going to get everything that you need to make the decision of, okay, this person is somebody that, is a good person I can rebuild trust with. Let me say it that way. And so they went on a weekend trip, and in the hotel, that's what they did. They went over 3 to 4 of those questions. And from there, they were able to develop a plan. And part of that plan was her saying, hey, look, I have a coach and I'm working on me. Here's what I expect from you. I expect from you to go get a coach, right? And here's what that looks like. If he says, okay, you're right, I'm going to do it because I want to do whatever I want, whatever I can to rebuild this relationship. Now you look up and 2 weeks later, he ain't even looked into finding nobody. He ain't even brought it up to you. He hasn't showed you that he's progressing towards it or anything. That's his character. That's his character saying that he's not going to be a man of his word. That's his character. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I mean when I say, hey, is this part, once a cheater, always a cheater. Look at their character about how they're responding to this offense of infidelity, because that's what he did. He actually started looking up coaches, and I sent him over some male coaches because I only work with women, but I sent him over some male coaches that kind of do the same work that I do. And he was reaching out to him and he was keeping her updated on, hey, this is how, and he was over communicating. So looking at those characteristics that will show, okay, yeah, this is somebody that I can eventually learn to feel safe with again.
Yes, they have to be willing to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love that.
And I think a lot of the times we don't feel safe with people because we've been in toxic relationships, right? And so it's so hard for us to be like, oh, wow, this is what safety feels like. Safety with my heart, safety with my thoughts, safety with my emotions. And a lot of times when we've been robbed of that, it's just so easier for us to say, okay, I'm going to just believe this way and this way only, because we don't know what having somebody with good character looks like, feels like. And so I'm grateful because I've gotten to see it in my close friendships. They've been restoring their relationships and I get to see it in my clients. And I'm like, okay, it is possible. And this is what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about my own experience. I have not had a healthy type of relationship yet. I'm longing for that, right? But I'm really focusing on me right now. So I appreciate you for sharing that it is possible. And I don't have to look at it so jaded that there is a possibility. But just knowing me, like, I'm not going to deal with that shit, okay? I'm not.
Yeah. So, you know, so like,
Yeah.
because some people are like, oh, baby, if it happens to me, I'm gone.
Yes.
It's totally fine.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I could talk to you all day. There's just so many nuggets that are coming out of you, but I want to end the conversation on an empowering note. I mean, this whole conversation was very empowering, but I want you to talk a little bit about what got you into helping people with this. I know you shared a little bit about, going live, and what gave you the power within you to really put your own wounds out there for the world to see and to judge. And how would you advise someone to start sharing their own story in whatever capacity that feels healthy for them?
Yeah. Again, it was just when I first shared my story, and so many women in my inbox talking about infidelity in their marriages. But when you go to their pages, they're making it seem like their marriages are legit and they're totally happy, right? And what that made me realize is that there is so much shame that people are living with. And so many of us are wearing masks every single day, because I've been there where I would go to work, hair laid to the gods, makeup slayed, outfits on point, right? And also, I'm a jokester. So people in my job would be like, Bree, come tell us a funny joke for the day. Like, baby, I did it all. But I was so broken that once I got to my car, I hadn't even left the work parking lot. I would start crying, and I would cry all the way home, which was an hour commute one way. And so what this has shown me is that there are too many of us who are embarrassed about our current situations or our past situations. And that is preventing you from getting to your next level. That is preventing you from getting to your desired level. And what I would tell women is that the way to get to fulfillment, the way to get to happiness, the way to get to joy, the way to get to blissfulness in your life is to bring along the broken pieces of you as well. I actually thank my ex-husband for everything that he put me through now. I wouldn't want to go through it again. But if I had to go through it again to get to where I am now, to get to the woman that I am now, I would do it. And so what I want to tell women is that whatever situation you're going through right now and you're ashamed of it, don't be, because it's going to be the thing that helps you cross over to the other side. And it's going to be the thing that where right now it seems hard and impossible because it's keeping you up at night. You're crying yourself to sleep at night. You're stressing over it. You're obsessed with their social media pages. Are you going back and forth with the other woman, always trying to get a one up? Or you're over obsessing about what am I going to do as the holidays are approaching? Or what are people going to say about me because I've taken him back again and now they're going to laugh at me? First of all, a lot of people are going through what you're going through, but they're keeping theirs hidden as well. So remove it. Remove the shame of whatever you're going through, because all of your pieces are broken, but they're beautiful. And that's who's going to make who you are, the woman that you want to be in the future.
Mm. Another mic drop moment. I wish we could stay on here for another 10 hours because there's just so much goodness that comes out of you. I appreciate you so much for being so open and candid about your own story and giving us so many gems to really think about. Y'all got to listen back to this episode. There's definitely some questions that you can ask yourself. You can journal on if you feel like you're going through this right now and you want to really start doing your own healing work. And I would love for you to share how people can follow you, work with you, and what we can best do to support you in the work that you do.
Oh, yes. Okay. So you can follow me on all social media platforms, Life After Infidelity. I do have a devotional, a 49-day devotional. It's called Healing the Heart from Infidelity. So you can actually find that on Amazon. And then you can go to my website, lifeafterinfidelity.net, to get the ebook. And it's a free download. Just pay $7 and you'll immediately get the download to the book. And just share, whatever post that I'm sharing, just share it, because what you don't realize is that even by you just sharing things that I share about infidelity, there are people in your community who are going through these things, but they are ashamed of them. You have no idea how many conferences I've spoken at and women won't even come up to me. I've been at gas stations after leaving a conference and women have come up to me and said, hey, I was too embarrassed to come at you at the conference. And it's so crazy. So I would say just share, because what it does is it helps women to feel seen, because a lot of women think that they're going through these particular situations and theirs is unique. It is not. And so it really empowers them and comforts them to say, hey, okay, cool. So I would just say if you see posts, share it, go follow, go like everything. I am really trying to make life after infidelity a whole movement, and I'm super excited about it.
Yes, you're not trying, you're doing,
I'm doing,
okay? You're
yes.
doing it. And I just appreciate the work that you're doing for allowing us and myself to feel seen. You guys, you're not going through it alone, even though you feel very alone in it. I absolutely get it. But when we come together as a collective and have these conversations to let you know that, yes, look at us now, despite what we've gone through, that's going to help the next person. So thank you so
Oh,
much
and
for
I
what you're
wanted to
doing.
say this because I don't know why it's in my mind, but I want to say it because maybe it's for your audience. You were talking about somebody who may be struggling to talk about what they're going through. With sharing your story comes a sense of freedom.
Mm.
And that freedom brings you peace. And so what I will say is if there is something that you feel like is holding you in bondage, there is something that you feel like is holding you back, don't be afraid to share it because that's what's going to bring you the freedom that you desire. Because what we don't understand is us holding this in is keeping us trapped and it's keeping us confined and it's keeping us feeling small and ashamed. And so by you sharing your story, you're taking that power back and you're giving yourself the freedom.
Come on. And another one, and another one, and another one. Thank you so much, Brianna. I'm so excited to continue watching you create this movement and help others. And I'm going to link all her info in the show notes so you guys can follow her and support her and share. Share this episode because it's going to help somebody, okay? I appreciate y'all. Until next time, this is the Watch Us Thrive podcast. Keep glowing, growing, and thriving.
Bye.